The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Exploring the Unknown with Rebecca and Shay. Taking stories from today's news, Rebecca and Shay will explore everything from the paranormal, supernatural, the strange and unusual, unsolved mysteries, and more. Join them as they delve deep into the unknown and mysterious, taken from news headlines. Water cooler chat with a paranormal twist. Only on Paranormal Buzz Radio.
Hey Shay, how's it going?
It is going. Getting ready for Christmas, I guess.
Yeah, same here. I think I'm done Christmas shopping except for one. I have one left to get, and I don't know. I'm probably just going to end up giving him money because I don't.
Yeah. We're not doing gifts this year. So.
Lucky you.
Yeah, but we're going to spend the whole day watching Christmas movies.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yep. So, it will be good.
That'll be getting together is the best part of Christmas, really.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Well, I guess after this will air after Christmas, I guess.
Well, yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, I just realized how close Christmas is in 3 days or something like that. So, we hope you all had a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I hope it all turned out well, and either I gave that kid money or a present or something. It is done at this point.
Yes, definitely. So, how many are you going to see your kids on Christmas? How's that work with COVID and how's it?
As far as I know, I'm seeing everybody. Nobody is too very concerned about virus stuff. We've all kind of been isolating and stuff. And my one family member that has been really concerned about it got the vaccine, so she doesn't care anymore.
Oh,
so
yeah. So, but I'm sure you see your kids a lot, so I guess they consider that a pod, like the people you're. Yep. So, well, I hope you had a great Christmas then.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope you had a good one too.
Yep. My fat ass will be on the couch watching Christmas movies all day. So.
It doesn't bad at all, really. I know.
So, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about cryptids. Yeah, cryptids that turned out to be real. Yay!
This one's going to be better than that last cryptid one we did. Remember that? Some of those are so gross.
Yeah, some of those were just weird. Yeah. These are real cryptids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is on skeptoid.com by Ryan Hopt, written April 7th of 2015. In the age of internet listicles? So listicle, like a popsicle? I don't know.
Is it like a testicle? I don't know.
That's a weird word. Okay.
Yeah.
It is easy to find information about mythical creatures that ended up being verified. Sometimes these articles tout these discoveries as examples of the blindness of Western science and its unwillingness to consider alternative points of view. But is that really the case? Today we'll look at some of the more popular examples of found cryptids and see if these truly represent failures of science or if they actually highlight one of its greatest strengths. To make sure we're all on the same page, some definitions. A cryptid is loosely defined as an organism, typically an animal, but really any living thing whose existence is suggested based on anecdotal evidence, such as unverified sightings or mythology, but whose true existence has yet to be confirmed or accepted by the scientific community. This definition was greatly expanded by the cryptozoologist George Eberhardt in an article for the Journal of Scientific Exploration in 2005. He classified 10 types of cryptids with 6 exclusions. We'll run through each briefly with an example to provide context for each of our own discovered cryptids later in the piece. Number 1, distribution anomalies, or finding an animal well outside their known range, like large cat sightings in the UK. Number 2, typically oversized variations of known animals, such as anacondas in the Amazon, well above the largest on record. Number 3, survival of recently extinct species, for example, ivory-billed woodpecker or the Tasmanian tiger. Number 4, survival of species only known from the fossil record, like the Loch Ness Monster, a supposed plesiosaur. Number 5, lingerlings, or survival of species from the fossil record into historical but not modern times, such as woolly mammoths purported to have survived beyond 11,000 years ago. Number 6, animals not known from the fossil record, but related to known species, such as black pumas in North America. Number 7, animals not known from the fossil record, nor related to any known species, for which Eberhardt provides Bigfoot as an example, because even though some claim the cryptid as surviving, that's a word, Gigantopithecus? I don't know, I totally butchered that.
Did better than I could.
He argues that the fossil record for this known ape is too poor, a few jaw fragments and isolated teeth to draw such a strong comparison between the two. Number 8, mythical animals with a probable zoological explanation, like griffins, which may represent descriptions of ceratopsin dinosaur fossils seen along ancient trading routes past the Altai Mountains in China and Mongolia. Number 9, seemingly paranormal or supernatural entities with animal characteristics such as werewolves or the Mothman of West Virginia. Number 10, known hoaxes or misidentifications typified by the famous jackalope, a rabbit with deer antlers. While there is a viral disease that can cause irregular tumor growths all over the body of a rabbit, which may have inspired its creation, the original portmanteau, known to most, was created by 2 taxidermists in Douglas, Wyoming as a joke.
Whew, take a breath.
Yeah, I know.
We swear, people, once we get through these lists and classifications, it's a good story.
Yeah, it is. And I kind of like the classification. It's kind of interesting to my logical mind to classify.
Me too. Yep.
Yeah.
Me too.
Eberhardt also defines 6 exclusions to these criteria, which help narrow the scope of cryptozoology. Number 1 is insignificance. In other words, the cryptid must be large, weird, deadly, or otherwise significant to people. A newly discovered beetle with no previous cultural awareness would not constitute a found cryptid. Number 2, lack of controversy. There needs to be a disagreement between 2 groups, those that believe in the cryptid and those that doubt. I would argue that that's another word, man. I'm butchered that one again. Is a good example of this type of exclusion. The coelacanth would fit into the 4th category of a surviving species from the fossil record, but I've never heard or read that there was an argument complaining their survival up until specimens were actually found by scientists, putting them squarely in the realm of known without going through a cryptid stage first. Okay.
Alrighty.
Erratics likely seen or found as one-time occurrence, such as the pet kangaroo that escaped from its owner in Austria, not Australia. Number 4, bizarre humans, such as zombies, even though these may have a historical basis, they're not animalistic enough to count as cryptids. Number 5, paranormal or supernatural beings, for example, aliens or demons. Even though these creatures are often portrayed with a mix of human and animal characteristics, even in folklore, they exist outside the natural laws and its natural world and its laws. Basically, the organism has to have DNA to count as a cryptid. Number 6, aliens, except in cases where the aliens are claimed to have lived on Earth for long enough that they could be considered residents, such as one explanation for the chupacabra. I had not heard that explanation for the chupacabra. Anyway.
Yeah.
With these categories clarified, we can now turn our skeptical eye upon some real animals that were once the stuff of myth and legend. The platypus. The platypus, is a basal, which is a scientific way of saying primitive without the value judgment, egg-laying mammal in the order Montremata, native to Australia. It is semi-aquatic, relatively small, only a few kilograms, and sports the flat paddle-like tail similar to a beaver, but with the beak on its face similar to a duck. They hunt using electroreception, which is only known from one other mammal, and the males have a venomous spur with enough toxin to kill a small dog. I didn't know that about platypuses.
I didn't either.
They are really weird, if that wasn't abundantly clear. The common narrative for the discovery of platypus by Europeans is that it was widely considered a hoax fabricated by Asian taxidermists by stitching a duck beak to a mole in the same way the Fiji mermaid was made by stitching a monkey to a fish. I'm sure you can guess which half of each was used. This is a bit more nuanced, but it is correct to put the platypus in the 10th category as a suspected hoax. There were indeed some who were willing to write off the platypus as mere hoax, but keeper of the Department of Natural History at the British Museum, George Shaw, the man who received the first specimen from Captain John Hunter and wrote the formal description of the animal from that specimen, was a bit more cautious in his conclusions. As written in his 1799 article in Nature's Miscellany, of all the mammalia yet known, it seems the most extraordinary in its conformation, exhibiting the perfect resemblance of the beak of a duck, engrafted on the head of a quadruped. So accurate is the similitude that at first it naturally excites the idea of some deceptive preparation by artificial means. The very epidermis, proportion, features, manner of opening, and other particulars of the beak of a shoveler or other broad-billed species of duck, presenting themselves to the view. Nor is it without the most minute and rigid examination that we can persuade ourselves of its being the real beak or snout of a quadruped. To me, this reads as a man carefully examining something that might be a hoax, but coming up short, and thus concluding that however fantastical this creature is, it is still likely real. Considerate inquiry into something so new and strange is the benchmark of good science, not flaw. And I would say Shaw's efforts are all the more impressive considering he was working more than half a century before Darwin published Origin of the Species. The platypus does indeed represent a cryptid turned true, but I also think we can agree that it was okay for naive scientists to be a little bit more skeptical upon first glance. Right?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
I mean, the platypus is one of those, it doesn't even look real.
No, it doesn't. All I can think of is that platypus that's in that cartoon my son used to watch.
Oh, yes. Impossible.
Yes. That's all I can think of.
Yeah.
So.
One of the kids loved that one.
Yeah, my son, I think, loved it.
All right, next one, the giant squid. The giant squid are a small group of squids in the genus, well, I won't bother you with that Latin name, may end up being a single species, though debate on that point is ongoing. They're the second largest squids in terms of mass and possible length in the world after the less poorly known colossal squid. Giant squid can reach lengths of up to 13 meters for females and 10 meters for males when measured from the posterior to the end of the tentacles. They live deep in the ocean and for a time were only known in sailors' stories and from the occasional carcasses that were washed ashore, already in very poor condition. A small number of specimens have accidentally caught by fishing trawlers, and only in the last decade have we been able to photograph or videotape them in their natural habitat of the deep sea. In terms of myth, however, the giant squid has a rich history, placing it as a mix of categories 2, an oversized variation of a known animal, and 8, a mythological animal, a zoological. The earliest descriptions of large squids come from antiquity. Aristotle in the 4th century BC described 2 distinct size classes for squids, though probably not the size differential we're talking about here. Pliny the Elder in the 1st century AD was closer to the mark in his book Natural History, where he describes the squid with a head as big as a cask and arms up to 9 meters long, a surprising underestimation if nothing else. Many seafaring cultures have killed the monster squids, the Scylla in Greek mythology and the Lusca of the Caribbean. Perhaps the most famous of all is the Norse kraken, which Swedish naturalist Carolus Linnaeus classified and even gave it the scientific name Microcosmos marinus in the first edition of Systema Naturae in 1735. Even though it was removed from later editions, it is a strong claim that some in the scientific community were willing to take this particular cryptid seriously. It wasn't until over 100 years later in the mid-1800s when boats and ships started capturing the occasional piece of squid and beach carcasses were identified and cataloged that the scientific community began to be more widely recognize the animal. But recognize they did. To me, the most fascinating thing about the giant cryptid is that we still barely know anything at all. The scientific community agrees that the animal exists, but they are so hard to research that we still know very little about them as animals. Regardless, given the appropriate level of physical evidence, the scientific community was willing to move the giant squid out of the realm of fantasy and into fact.
Can you imagine coming across that in the ocean?
Oh, no. No. And I think that's like one of those, it's just so fantastical, the stories, people just didn't believe them.
Yep. Yeah. They learned.
I wonder. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
And, even as little as we know about them, it just seems so weird that we know so little about something that's so big.
Right? That makes you think.
It does.
But I think we've said before that we know less about our oceans than we know about space.
Right? Well, like the whale shark, that one.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
And it was discovered in, I think the 90s. It's like, how could you not see that?
Yep. But the ocean's so huge and so deep, and we can't even get to a lot of the ocean because it's so deep.
I think there's a lot left to be discovered, for sure.
Yeah. We focus so much on looking upwards that we haven't quite looked down enough.
Yeah, I agree. So this next one is called the okapi, and I'm probably butchering that.
Looks good to me.
The okapi is a mammal of the family Giraffidae, sharing the family with its only other member, the giraffe. For many years in the 19th century, Europeans heard tales from Africa of elusive forest beasts colloquially named the African unicorn. Category 6, no fossil record, but related to some known animal if you're keeping track. The animal was sensationalized in Sir Henry Stanley's Travelogues of the Congo region in the 1880s and 90s, where he described it as a kind of donkey, which the natives called the atai. The story then goes that the British governor of Uganda, Sir Henry Johnston, rescued some Pygmy inhabitants from the exploitation by showmen for exhibition and promised them safe return to their home. In return, the Pygmy shows Johnston the tracks of the animal he'd read about in Stanley's books, as Johnston was a naturalist, primarily botany, and curious. Based on the donkey comparison, he expected horse-like tracks, but was surprised to discover a cloven-hoofed mark. He never saw the animal alive, but did find a skull and some skins, which are enough to have the animal classified formally in 1901. The okapi is a fun example because it has a mix of traits that should make it easily, but also very difficult to define definitively. The easy part is its size, ranging from 1.9 to 2.5 meters long and about 1.5 to 2 meters tall at the shoulder, with weights between 200 and 350 kilograms. It should come with no great shock that larger animals should be easier to find and verify than very small animals. The hard part is the lifestyle and habitat. These are solitary animals living in some of the densest and most remote rainforests in the world. And the people native to this region had known of the animal for a long time, but had no history of scientific inquiry that early European explorers would have deemed valid. So acceptance of the animals held off until physical evidence was provided. However, the cultural knowledge of the Pygmies was instrumental in providing said physical evidence, and upon presentation yielded a scientific description, species name, and acceptance among the European scientific community. While maybe a bit insensitive to the local people of the region, and again, not an example of poorly done scientific inquiry. And there are some other really great examples of found cryptids that we don't have time to get into here, but by and large, they fall into certain cryptid categories, not others. Oh, I guess this is the end of it. Let's go back. Let's back up a little bit and talk about the
Okay.
Okapi.
So is it like a rainforest giraffe? Because meters mean nothing to me, but the pound, the weight, it's in kilograms, so that means nothing to me either.
Yeah, let me Google this one. I want to see a picture of it.
Is it like a mini giraffe? Because they said donkey.
Oh. I think I've seen this at a zoo. It's kind of like, it does kind of look like a donkey with maybe a moose face. And then it's got kind of like zebra stripes on its leg.
Oh, wait, that's the thing in the picture at the top.
Yeah, it is.
Oh. So it's like a zebra had a baby with a donkey and a...
Yeah. Well, there's obviously a giraffe in there somewhere.
Is it because the neck's a little longer? I don't understand why.
I don't know.
So, I thought they never actually found one alive. Did they now?
Well, obviously, I'm looking at a picture of one. And like I said, I think I've seen this in this...
Sorry. I'm looking at the same friggin' picture. Oh my God.
Why?
I thought it was just a good recreation. I don't know.
Unicorn, though.
Yeah, why is it?
I mean, looks like it's got like little horns, but not like...
Oh, I thought that was its ear.
Horn. It's just weird looking.
Is that a horn over its eye?
Yeah, but it looks like there's two horns, kind of like the little giraffe horns. They're little short things.
Ah. All right. There's a stupid moment for the... I was going to say for the week, but we know there's more coming for this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if there's a lot more that aren't like that where, the natives know about it and they just don't believe them, because you don't, like out here, they talk about bobcats, but you never see bobcats. And we obviously have bobcats here in this area, but nobody sees them, so nobody really thinks they're actually here. And now you've got their tags. You can get a tag to hunt a bobcat, and everybody's like, what? They're not here, but they're hunting them. So obviously they're here.
Yeah, I would not want to see a bobcat.
No.
I'm afraid of, like, wild cats coming out when I'm in the forest, as everybody knows.
Right?
And warthogs.
Yeah.
And Bigfoot and raccoons, any kind of animal coming out in the middle of the woods in the dark, I'm going to scream.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I've had deer running around out and they scare me. Just because, it startled you.
Yeah. Yep. But deer is so cute, though. From a distance. I wouldn't want to, like...
Distance, but, like, when you're in the dark, there's something big running around. It's kind of like, is it Bigfoot? No, it's a deer.
I'd be the one screaming. I'd be like, it's coming for me. It's coming.
Yeah.
That is me.
Let's see. Here, there are some other really great examples of found cryptids that we don't have time to get into here. But by and large, they fall into certain cryptid categories and not others. The mountain gorilla would fall into category 6, being related to the known species of the lowland gorilla. Sea serpents could fall into categories 1, 2, or 10, but I would argue for 10 and misidentification, as if some have suggested the majority of sea serpent tails were misidentified oarfish, which can grow up to 11 meters in length. The Komodo dragon is a clear example of number 2, a much larger version of known monitor lizards. These animals also live in common. These animals also have in common a very remote or difficult to access habitat with low human populations, especially Westerners with the ability to collect evidence that we would be deemed scientifically valid. As we venture into the rainforest, we find new animals. As we venture into the ocean, the same. Depending on the animals found, these are considered victories for cryptozoology. But regardless, they are always victories for science and show the power of careful inquiry, investigation, and the demand for reliable evidence in the exploration of life all around the world.
Interesting.
It is really interesting.
It is.
I wonder if they'll actually find a jackalope and then prove them wrong for making fun of their jackalope.
You can stop turning your nose up at things, people. You never know. People were called crazy for saying they saw these things once upon a time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so you never know what's out there.
Yep, and unlike the platypus, I mean, I can see why people would think that was not right.
Right.
Yeah. That is totally understandable. And yeah. But jackalope, the jackalope, that could be a thing.
I would like to see that. I would like to see it behind glass or something. I'm not a wild animal person, so like behind glass, just to see it, or a picture, a real picture.
Right? Mm-hmm. It just kind of makes you wonder how many more out there are like the platypus, where there's just not very many of them, and so people think they aren't real, when in fact they really are.
Yeah. Yep, I can't wait. So we are coming up on the 30-minute mark. So getting there real close. So I think that's about it for this story, because for once I would like to keep it under the 30 minutes. The last few have been very long. Not a bad thing. I don't mind doing it, but...
Well, we wanted this to be bite-sized so that you didn't have to invest hours and hours of your time listening. You just have the quick little bit of time in the car.
Yep. Yeah, lunch break. And get your daily dose of Rebecca and Shay. Everybody needs their daily dose. So you just got to listen to us over and over every day to get the daily dose, but that's okay.
Well, maybe it's like a once a week dose.
All right, there we go. Unless this is your first time listening, then you got to listen to them all.
Then you'd have a couple weeks of listening.
Yep. So. All right. Do you have anything coming up this week? What are you doing? I'm taking most of the week off.
Christmas. I'm working tomorrow, and then I'm going to Mom and Dad's for Christmas, and then having Alan's family here the day after. So
nice. Yeah,
Christmasing 2 days in a row, and the daughter's bringing the grandbaby. So woo!
Aww.
Get some grandbabies finally.
Yeah. Yep. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Rebecca, if they want to read this article themselves, where should they look?
Look for Exploring the Unknown podcast group on Facebook. Actually see the picture of that okapi yourself and decide whether it's orange or not, or see its weird zebra stripes.
Yes, it's pretty cool looking.
It is kind of cool looking. It's a neat thing.
And if you have a story you think we should cover, make sure you send it to us. We'll give you a special shout out. And a little sneak peek of what's coming up. Pretty soon here, we're going to have an actual guest.
We are going to have a guest.
We are. We're going to have a guest. We had to bring in a brain for this one because I'm not smart enough to follow the story, so I had to get the third person involved. I don't want to say who.
It's like a complicated story, and since I scammed it off of somebody's Facebook page, I decided I'd reel them in.
Yeah, and I was all for it. Like I said, my brain can't comprehend half of it. So, again, guys, thanks for listening, and we hope you had a happy Christmas, and New Year's is coming up for you guys here soon, so have a safe New Year's Eve and a happy, healthy New Year's.
Happy holidays.